It was almost midnight when Daniel noticed the young woman sitting alone at the bus station. She was holding an old phone in both hands, crying quietly while staring at the screen. Most people walked past her without looking. Daniel almost did the same. He was tired after a long day at work, and his 8-year-old daughter, Emma, was asleep beside him on a bench. But something in the woman's face made him stop. "Are you okay?" Daniel asked gently. The woman looked up and quickly wiped her tears. "I'm sorry. I'm fine." Daniel knew she was not fine. He sat a few feet away so she would not feel uncomfortable. "You don't have to pretend." Her lips began to shake again. She looked at her phone and whispered, "My mother is dying, and I have no way to get home." Daniel felt his heart sink. Her name was Sarah, and she worked at a small restaurant in the city. She had received a call from her younger brother that her mother had become seriously ill. Her family lived nearly 6 hours away in another town. Sarah had only a little money, and the last bus to her hometown had already left. "I tried calling the bus company," she explained. "There is another bus in the morning, but I don't have enough money for the ticket. I get paid next week." Daniel looked at his daughter, then back at Sarah. He understood what it meant to be responsible for someone you loved. He had become a single father after his wife passed away several years earlier. Since then, he had learned that sometimes life gave people problems they could not solve alone. Sarah stood up. "I'll figure something out." "I'm sorry for bothering you." Daniel gently stopped her. "Listen to me," he said with a small smile. "You are going home tonight." Sarah stared at him, confused. "You don't know me," she said. "No," Daniel replied. "But I know what it feels like to be afraid of losing someone you love." He took out his phone and started making calls. He contacted a friend who drove long distance for work. Unfortunately, his friend was out of town. Then Daniel called a local transportation company and asked about the cost of a private ride. It was too expensive. Sarah lowered her head. "Please don't spend your money on me." Daniel shook his head. "I'm not doing this because I have extra money. I'm doing it because if someone I loved was dying, I would hope a stranger would help me too." Then Daniel had another idea. Daniel called his older brother, Mark, who lived about an hour away. He explained everything. Mark did not ask many questions. "I'll come," he said. An hour later, Mark arrived at the bus station with his old car. It was not fancy, and the heater barely worked, but it was enough to get Sarah home. Before they left, Daniel handed Sarah a small envelope. She opened it and immediately tried to give it back. "No, Daniel. I can't take this." "It's not charity," Daniel said. "Think of it as a loan. If you ever get the chance, help someone else." Sarah looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Why are you doing all this for someone you don't even know?" Daniel smiled. "Because one day, my daughter may need someone to help her. I want the world to have people who will stop." Emma, who had been quietly listening, suddenly spoke from the bench. "Daddy, is the lady going to see her mommy?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, sweetheart." Emma smiled. "Good." Sarah covered her mouth, trying not to cry again. Before leaving, she hugged Daniel. It was only a few seconds, but neither of them forgot it. The drive was long. Sarah sat in the back seat while Mark drove. She kept calling her brother for updates. Every time her phone rang, her hands shook. At around 4 in the morning, Sarah received a call. Her mother's condition had become worse. "Please drive faster," she whispered. Mark nodded and continued down the nearly empty highway. When they finally reached the town, the sky was beginning to turn gray. Sarah ran into the hospital without even looking back. Mark waited outside. Nearly 40 minutes later, Sarah came out crying. But this time, there was a small smile on her face. "She was awake," Sarah said. She was waiting for me. Her mother had been too weak to speak much, but when she saw Sarah, she had squeezed her daughter's hand. Sarah stayed beside her bed for the rest of the morning. Daniel never knew what happened next. He simply went home with Emma, believing the story had ended. But sometimes, the smallest act of kindness creates a circle that does not end where you expect. 3 years passed. Daniel was working at a small construction company and struggling financially. Raising Emma alone was not easy. Bills continued to arrive, and there were days when he wondered how he would manage everything. One afternoon, his manager called him into the office. "There is someone here to see you." Daniel walked into the reception area and stopped. Sarah was standing there. For a moment, he did not recognize her. She looked healthier, more confident, and happier than the frightened woman he had met at the bus station. "Daniel," she said with a smile. He immediately remembered her. Sarah hugged him tightly. "My mother survived," she said. "She still talks about the stranger who helped me get home." Daniel smiled. "I'm glad she made it." Sarah then explained why she had come. After that terrible night, she had returned to her hometown and helped care for her mother. Eventually, she started a small transportation service that helped people who needed emergency rides to hospitals and distant towns. "I remembered what you told me," she said. "You said to help someone else when I got the chance." She handed Daniel an envelope. He opened it and found a letter offering him a better paying position at her company, with flexible hours so he could continue caring for Emma. Daniel looked at her in disbelief. "You don't owe me anything," he said. Sarah smiled. "I know. That's why I'm doing it." Daniel looked across the room at Emma, who was waiting outside. He realized that the kindness he had shown one frightened stranger had somehow returned to his own family. Years earlier, Sarah had cried, "My mother is dying, and I have no way to get home." Daniel had simply smiled and said, "Listen to me. You are not alone." He had no idea that those few words would change two families forever. Sometimes, helping someone does not require great wealth, power, or a perfect plan. Sometimes, it only requires stopping for a few minutes when everyone else keeps walking. And sometimes, the stranger you help today becomes the reason you can keep going tomorrow.